Call this council meeting to order. At this time, if you are able, we will have our national anthem, followed by our land acknowledgement.
Oh, oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command, car ton bras s'est porté l'épée, il s'est porté la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
The Niagara region is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations such as the Hattaway-Wendourok, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The city of Port Colborne stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live.
Council, if I could have Councillors Ackley and Beauregard move the agenda. We do have two additions to the agenda tonight. Presentation has been attached to the delegation of Aaron Butler. And we have a written delegation which was submitted by Maureen and Ken Anthes, which is regarding item 12.2. So if Aquilina and Beauregard can move that the agenda dated November 25th, 2025 be confirmed as amended. Questions? All in favor? That's carried. Disclosures of interest. Councillor Beauregard has indicated that he has a conflict on item 18.1A, Confidential Development and Government Relations Land Negotiations Report 2025-206. Are there any other disclosures of interest? Okay. No proclamations, no presentations. We do have one delegation this evening. Aaron Butler from NPG Planning Solutions will be providing an in-person delegation regarding item 12.2 on tonight's agenda. And as I mentioned before, Maureen and Ken Anthes, they did provide a written delegation that everybody received regarding the same item. So Aaron's here. Aaron, welcome.
Thank you.
Just press the red button there. You're set to go.
Thank you very much. And bear with me here. I've lost my voice a little bit, so I might have to go into the water here once or twice to get rid of that. A little scratch. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Aaron Butler with NPG Planning. We're located at 4999 Victoria Avenue, Niagara Falls. I'm the planner for Golden Falcon Homes on the Mapleview subdivision project. And tonight I'm delegating on recommendation report number 2025-234 and OPA and ZBA bylaws 7408-9925 and 7409-125. And I'd just like to thank staff for the report and for the work over the last couple of years and longer on this project. Does this work? Should work, but I'll go to that. Thank you. So just in terms of location, I won't spend too long on this slide. We know where these lands are. We've had a public meeting on this application back in March of last year. So these are, this is the Mapleview subdivision lands, former quarry lands and cement factory. with frontage along Kalali Street West and Elgin Street. Next slide, please, Eric. So I just wanted to give a bit of a refresher for council and members of the public that are here tonight about previous approvals for the property. So the site is currently designated and zoned for development associated with a previous draft plan of subdivision approved in 2013. The site is zoned for 6-story apartment buildings and commercial development along Kalali Street, along with a mix of single, detached, and townhouse dwellings throughout the site. 6-story apartments are also permitted along the eastern edge of the site, adjacent to Maple Park and the West Side Road extension on the right-hand side of this picture. There's a park zone at the west edge of the development area next to the quarry ponds, and some environmental protection at the west end of the site associated with the quarry ponds. There are no other environmental features presently zoned, I'll say, for protection on the lands. And in terms of the subdivision street layout that you see here from the 2013 approvals, there is a extension of Elgin Street, which is Street A, the second from the bottom, that goes all the way through the site, and a future connection to Rosemount at the bottom of the site, just those 2 connection points. There's a large swath of MTO lands that cuts through the site, that sort of band there at that time. And that's now part of the development lands. The subdivision approvals for this development lapsed prior to my client purchasing the lands. However, the zoning is still in place, so this is the zoning today. Next slide, please, Eric. So really what I want to cover now is the changes from the original submission that was made, what we heard at the public meeting, the work we've done with staff and with members of the public, and ultimately resulting in the plan and for the official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendments that you have in front of you today. So in April 2024, after consultation with city and agencies, the original application was submitted for draft plan of subdivision, official plan amendments, and zoning bylaw amendment. Some of the metrics for the original submission are on the right-hand side. And I want to actually highlight some of the differences between the current zoning that's on the property and what we submitted in April 2024. So without that MTO swath on the lands, the frontage of Kalali can be used really well. Previously, the swath kind of cut off part of Kalali. You couldn't really use the frontage of Kalali that well, and you couldn't really get a road access to Kalali. So the plan we submitted in April 2024 had 8-story apartment buildings along Kalali, and there were no other apartment buildings on the site, so the apartments that were previously approved along the east side in the bottom right corner of the plan were removed. We retained commercial space along Kalali. South of those apartments and their parking areas, you basically see a mix of single detached townhouses and different types of townhouse uses. So the townhouses we were providing were kind of regular townhouses, stacked back to back and rear lane. The area that was previously zoned for a park on the west side is now zoned, proposed to be zoned in our original submission as environmental protection area. So that's that big white block that you see in the kind of top left. That's a woodland and some wetland within that area. As a result of the new environmental protection, the park was shifted south. So that's in the bottom left corner, that sort of hatched area. We also added a central parkette, sort of in the middle of the site there, just to try to centralize park for the residents a bit more. In addition to the environmental protection areas on the west side of the site, there's now an additional, even further than that, a wood lot that's proposed to be zoned for environmental protection near the east part of the site, and that's shown in green there. The entire south boundary of the property is also proposed to be zoned for environmental protection. In terms of street layout, West Side Road is still planned to be extended as it was in the previous iteration of the plans from 2013. And at that time, in April 2024, it was planned to be extended right to Elgin Street. Elgin Street was then proposed to extend only about 100 feet into the site instead of all the way through the site. A road connection to Rosemount was still possible. We're showing sort of a stub at the bottom of the screen, a future connection over the rail if possible to Rosemount. And of course, the 3rd Avenue connection, which was previously not there. Next slide, please, Eric. This slide highlights some of the major items we heard through circulation of the applications, as well as comments at the June 4th, 2024 public meeting, and a follow-up meeting that we had with neighborhood representatives here at City Hall. There is I'll say that staff and your consultants have done a really good job detailing all comments received in the staff report. These are some of the major comments that led to revisions. So we heard that the parquet was too small. So these are first agency and city comments. We heard the parquet was too small and in the wrong location. Pathways to parks and trails needed to be re-examined. Suggestion from planning staff that instead of having West Side Road extend all the way to Elgin Street, that it enter into the development site earlier, so a little bit further north than Elgin Street. The 8 apartments was basically too much along Kalali, and that the new street lining up with 3rd Avenue should continue all the way down into the site instead of stopping. Previously it stopped at the parquet, but that it should extend southerly into the development site to provide for better circulation. We also heard from members of the public concerns about the height of the apartments and the number of apartments. We heard concerns about traffic increases along Elgin. The location of back-to-back townhouses that were proposed at the east side of the property, adjacent to townhouses on Maple Avenue. And broadly, that the density is too great for the area. Eric, thank you. So this is the plan in front of you this evening. This is our revised submission, October 2025. And the official plan amendment and the zoning bylaw amendment that are in front of you this evening line up with this plan. So firstly, the change that we made was removing the parquet from the middle of the property and moving the park to the southeast corner. So the park now is adjacent to Maple Park. It extends all the way across to the woodlot, all the way to the west edge of the woodlot. So it's a larger park. There's more park area in this plan. It's better connected to the existing park system, better connected to the environmental protection system and trail system. The park in the southwest corner adjacent to the quarry ponds remains in the same location. The extension of West Side Road, as I mentioned, no longer extends all the way to Elgin. It turns into the property at that main east-west street. And this was in response to staff that made the suggestion, working through that with them, and was also it was basically to try to deter people from maybe cutting through Elgin Street, coming from West Side Road or leaving the site that way. And so now this southeast portion of the plan has single-family homes, a row of single-family homes, and a block of townhouses, regular townhouses. So not much in terms of traffic in that area that might be inclined to use Elgin Street. And certainly we think this deters anyone from coming straight down West Side Road to Elgin and out to Steele. The number of apartment buildings along Kalali has been reduced, so we have 4 left. And in terms of their placement, we've left 2 cornering and really framing the intersection at West Side Road and Kalali. And that's actually a mixed use, those are mixed use buildings, so they would have commercial on the ground floor. These are still 8 stories. And we have 2 at the far west side of the site near the quarry ponds, and across from those apartments is actually highway commercial uses, so it's not across from the residents in the subdivision to the north. It's almost at the intersection of Highway 3. I should also mention, actually, in moving West Side Road, in terms of where it comes into the site, we've also eliminated those back-to-back townhouses that were adjacent to Maple Avenue townhouses. And then in this plan, 3rd Avenue does extend all the way down to the south road, which essentially creates better circulation within the site. So all of this resulted in the reduction of about 300 units. Next slide, Eric. So as I've said, tonight you're being asked to approve the official plan and zoning bylaw amendments associated with these changes to the plan. We support the report from the staff and the consultants and support the applications. We feel we've responded well to the comments heard from the public, from staff, from members of council, from agencies, and we really appreciated the feedback and working with the staff on these changes. We believe the official plan and zoning changes are an improvement from the 2013 approvals that are in place now and are reflective of the city's current planning context, which focuses on increasing housing supply and variety and protecting natural environment. This is also a brownfield site that will be remediated, which is also a positive. And for these reasons, we believe the applications are consistent with the provincial planning statement, conform to the region and city official plans, and implement their vision. Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron. Questions at this time? Councillor Borgard?
Through you, Your Worship, to the presenter. There's a recommendation for a holding provision in the subdivision, well, for the zoning bylaw amendment. I'm just wondering if you have any concerns with that by any chance?
No, we don't. We've reviewed it with staff and had an opportunity to provide input on the language.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Bruno?
Thank you, Worship. Thank you for the presentation and for many of the amendments. I'm wondering if you could go back on the slides to slide number 5, page 5. I believe that's the chart, yes. Back to the chart, Eric.
This one?
The one before, I think. That's it. So I'm wondering, in terms of, I think you had great regard, and as you should, and I'm hoping that that appeases residents of Elgin and Maple, because those things needed to happen. And I think the plan's a much better plan for that. But there are some concerns from folks who live in Westport Gardens, which is 3rd Avenue. And I'm wondering on the agency comments, 1E, a through street south from 3rd Avenue would create better circulation. And I'm not trying to be glib about that, but better circulation for who?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the better circulation, this isn't a comment about external to the site. This is like the internal subdivision design. That extension from 3rd previously stopped. And so there was a bit of kind of a roundabout way of getting around the subdivision because of the parkette in the middle. And so the center spine now in the just within the subdivision, you have more connection points to that street within the subdivision. It's better walkability and better circulation for vehicles.
This is ultimately going somewhere, but I may have to circle back to the planner. So there is a concern that, well, that route to Kalali Street West is going to carry a lot of traffic in an 1,800 house entity. My concern is more for, in this case, the people who live on Third Avenue. I mean, they have great concern that, whilst not by everybody, that can be a cut through to Main Street. Now, you turn right, you go to West Side Road, and that seems pretty efficient to go to McDonald's, No Frills, the Plaza, and obviously Highway 58. But it may not be for everybody that uses that turn, and you get to West Side Road and you may be in a wait to turn left. You can go left out of the subdivision and go to Main, and there's a nice turn to go back to Main, to go to No Frills and that. But there also can be a propensity of people who, and we've seen it here in town, when traffic is coming both way on Kalali, the easiest way is to shoot across the intersection, as opposed to the time it takes to make a left, the time it takes to make a right. And so while we've accommodated everybody on the road network, from what I've heard, inside the development, I still think it's adding an extra burden potentially to people who live in Westport Gardens. And the idea of it being a four corners might be great if it was a controlled intersection and had a light or four-way stops or things like that. But the idea of offsetting it may be better for the residents in Westport Gardens to force people to go left or right as opposed to straight across, because there won't be a straight across if you move that street. And I'm wondering if you could relook at that and have some regard for it. And I know we're not here tonight to do draft plan and final design and that, but I think you should have that heads up. And I'm surprised because I know they were mentioned as public comments, I believe both written and verbalized at the public meeting about Third. So if you could have that regard for that, and I'll circle back and ask the planner about that too. Yeah. Okay. I don't know if you have any comments about that though, for Third.
Sure, yeah, if I may, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, go ahead.
So to the councillor, certainly it's not on the slide. That was absolutely considered when we were doing our redesign. It wasn't a comment that was set aside. We did a number of things. For one, we looked at maybe providing other accesses to Kalali. That was not supported by the Niagara region. So the Niagara region essentially told us one access to Kalali. And their preference from a safety perspective in terms of rather having roads jogging was that it lines up. The traffic study shows that at that intersection, someone coming north out of the site, the majority, I don't have the numbers handy, but the majority of vehicles turn either left or right there. Some go through, some may go through. The majority go left or right. And probably the reason is that Third Ave is an indirect route to Main Street West. It's not a direct route. There's another turn in there. And there will be a signal at Kalali and West Side Road extension. And so the thinking is that most people are going to go that way instead of waiting to make a left or right across traffic, go to the light when it turns green and go and use West Side Road that way. So the majority of traffic leaving the property will go to that intersection.
Thank you.
Good. Further questions? Perfect. Thanks, Aaron. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I look for lots of comments when it's on the floor. Okay. On to the mayor's report. The City of Port Colborne, in partnership with Niagara Region and the YMCA of Niagara, invited members of the media and the community to attend a groundbreaking ceremony held earlier today, marking the start of construction for the new licensed childcare facility at 76 Main Street West. Approved by Council on November the 12th, 2025, the project represents a major investment in expanding access to affordable, high-quality childcare for local families, funded through federal and provincial governments' investments in the Canada-wide Early Learning and Childcare Program, in line with Niagara Region's Early Learning and Childcare Direct Growth Plan, and operated by the YMCA of Niagara. The new facility will transform the former Port Colborne Visitor Center into a modern, inclusive, and welcoming childcare space. Water and Stormwater Master Servicing Plan update with Agile Infrastructure. The purpose of this study is to establish an overall management strategy and vision for meeting short and long-term water and stormwater infrastructure needs in the City of Port Colborne through to the year 2051 and beyond. While the studies are being undertaken independently, there are common elements between each study. As such, the City is planning a joint public information session to present information on the master plan studies, and the objectives of the PIC are to present preliminary evaluation results and receive input and feedback on each study's proposed strategies. Each study will identify the problem to be solved through review of the existing conditions and performance of the current systems and consideration of the impacts of population growth on these systems. Identify and assess strategies for meeting existing and future servicing needs. Establish overall management strategies to inform future policies, practices, and capital planning decisions. The City of Port Colborne is hosting a joint public information session called a PIC to present background and preliminary results of the 2025 PPCP and the WSMSP update. Consultation is an integral part of the EA master plan process, and members of the public, agencies, and other interested persons are encouraged to participate in the upcoming PIC. The date of this will be held, it'll be on Wednesday, December the 3rd, from 3 o'clock to 7 o'clock in the evening, and it'll be in the Golden Puck Room at the Valley Health and Wellness Center. And this public information session will provide you with an opportunity to hear project updates, provide input, ask questions. Representatives from the city and their consultants will be available to discuss project information and respond to questions. The holidays are just around the corner, and the City of Port Colborne has a flurry of events planned along with opportunities to support neighbors in need. The City of Port Colborne will once again be hosting the All Hands on Deck Holiday Drive. It'll run until December the 17th. That's a Wednesday. The initiative will collect new unwrapped toys or books and non-perishable food for Port Cares, new and used clean coats and new mittens for Birchway Niagara, and new and gently used CSA certified safety boots for Habitat for Humanity Niagara Region. Our drop-off locations are the Fire Hall, Engineering and Operations Center, Valley Health and Wellness Center, right here at City Hall, and our Port Colborne Public Library. And the Tugboat Santa will be on December the 6th, that's a Saturday, at 1 p.m. Santa arrives by tugboat in the Welland Canal. And this is being presented by our Downtown Business Improvement Association. And our lighted Santa Claus parade is on the same Saturday on December 6th at 6:30 p.m. The downtown core will shine bright when illuminated floats, local groups, and Santa himself bring the magic to Port Colborne. And ending the weekend will be our grand old Christmas festival on Sunday, December the 7th. Travel back in time at the Port Colborne Historical Marine Museum from noon to 4 p.m. Enjoy horse-drawn carriage rides, pioneer winter activities, warm chestnuts, apple cider, visit with Santa and their classic Christmas pudding at Arabella's Tea Room, and read more on the city's website or social media. On Thursday, November 13th, CAO Brian Bowles and I were thrilled to welcome grade 5 students from McKay Public School right here to the council chambers. And the students had an opportunity to learn about the different levels of government and how they work together, the roles and responsibility of the mayor, CAO, and members of council, how the mayor is elected, the responsibilities of municipal government, and what happens during a city council meeting. We actually did 2 mock meetings with the kids, So we had mayors, we had CAO, clerks, we had a public works director, Parks and Rec director, and we had a report being given. So it was actually pretty good with the kids, and they were actually jumped right in, and quite frankly, they asked questions to our staff member who was presenting, which was one of the other kids, and there were some pretty good questions. And I said to them, it's probably the same questions our council would ask under a similar report. So one was to do with a new splash pad in Port Colborne, and the other one was to do to redo a water line that fed McKay Public Schools. So it was pretty fun.
Yeah, great.
And it was a fantastic way for young learners to see government in action, ask questions about how their city is run, and wrap up their social studies unit on government. Last week, I had the pleasure of attending the 20th annual Highway H2O conference alongside many marine industry partners. Some of the 180 attendees included Canadian and U.S. seaway officials, port authorities, shipping companies, dock operators, logistics companies, and the federal, provincial, and regional governments. Port Colborne was included in many discussions, especially pertaining to increasing its footprint to 12-month shipping along the St. Lawrence Seaway, especially along the southern end of the city. The Ontario Marine Council, they gave a presentation, underscores the economic and environmental advantages of Ontario's marine transportation system, which reduces emissions by 85% compared to long-haul trucking, and plays a vital role in supporting provincial supply chains. And over the last year, OMC advanced several strategic initiatives, including advocating to sustain Georgian College's marine engineering program, securing a role in the East-West Energy Corridor study, supporting industry research on container reception services, hosting key sector events, and continuing provincial engagement on funding priorities. These efforts all support the implementation of Ontario's marine transportation strategy, which is built on 4 pillars, and they are strengthening Ontario's marine position in the multimodal network, supporting infrastructure and economic development, investing in education, labor, and training, and lastly, greening marine transportation. To advance these pillars, the Ontario Marine Council recommends targeted funding and policy tools such as establishing a centralized marine data program, formally integrating the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Corridor into the East-West Energy Corridor study, creating a provincial marine project development fund, expanding support for marine training through Georgian College, launching a marine trades transition program, and enabling clean fuel adoption through incentives and regulatory alignment. These actions would boost Ontario's competitiveness, strengthen supply chain resilience, support workforce growth, and help the province meet its economic and environmental areas. The City of Port Colborne is proud to participate in the Global 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence, taking place from November the 25th to December the 10th. This annual campaign brings our community together to raise awareness, honor survivors, and take action toward ending gender-based violence. Earlier today, we raised their flag here at the City Hall as a reminder of the importance of safety, equity, and support for all. The campaign culminates on Human Rights Day, reminding us all that living free from violence is a fundamental human right. Hydro One has submitted a $311 million application to the Ontario Energy Board for approval to build a new double-circuit 230 kilovolt transmission line from Thorold to Welland. The project also includes expanding the Crowland Transformer Station to strengthen grid capacity, reliability, and security by 2029, addressing rapidly growing electricity demand in southwestern Ontario. As required under Section 92 of the Ontario Energy Board Act, the application details the project's timing, route, design, and costs. Nearby First Nations are also offered the opportunity to invest in a 50% equity stake through Hydro One's First Nations Equity Partnership model. More information is available on Hydro One's project webpage. So Council and those watching and those that are here in the audience, over the last 2 years, Port Colborne has been advocating to both Ontario Hydro and the Provincial Minister of Energy to upgrade Crowland Station for our expanding commercial, industrial, and residential growth hydro requirements. And at this time, I want to thank the City of Welland for their advocacy and Ontario Hydro for expediting this important infrastructure project. At Roma, AMO, Good Roads, and quite frankly, even at points of FCM. We've talked to all involved in this. This wasn't supposed to be done till around 2032. I think that was the date, CAO.
Yeah.
So with the advocacy specifically from ourselves and the city of Welland, with the provincial government and those that we know at Ontario Hydro, and with them speaking to our industry here in Port Colborne, looking at what's on our tables here with regards to residential units going in subdivisions. And I think getting the Asai Kase plant really put the bug in their ear that they've got to do something with the power that's coming into Port Colborne. We're fortunate that in 2019, we made sure that Ontario Hydro upgraded our own Davis Street station, which wasn't supposed to be done until 2028, and we cut the ribbon for that 2 years ago. So I am happy now. I've been to some meetings where our tone got pretty loud with Ontario Hydro with regards to our businesses and our residents here in the city. And at this time, I thank them for putting up with me and our senior staff and counselors that were with me. But they've come through and are putting this project ahead. This is a huge boost to our community, folks. Huge boost to our community. And with it being completed in 2029, that bodes well for us and for the expansions and new business that are coming to Port Colborne. So this concludes my report for this evening. And the regional councilor's not here. Vance is away on business. So if anybody has any questions either on my report or for regional questions, you can ask me now. Councilor?
Thank you, Worship. I know at the last meeting, Councillor Danch brought up the issue of commercial pickup for recycling objects. And I did read in the news release that that the region is not going to intervene in the sense of either picking up the cost of that. But I didn't read if there was any alternatives, like, you know, is there just commercial entities are free to just go to their hauler that maybe picks up the garbage now? Same thing with apartment buildings. Is there anything more coming on that file, or is it a closed case? And if it is, it's just good to know.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say it's closed. I mean, the region's still working with the province on this. These primarily pertain to downtown business cores, like our BIAs. Your commercial industrial areas already pay for their own pickup. That's been happening forever. Same with the apartment buildings, majority of large apartment buildings within Port Colborne and across the region. So that doesn't change. They're already paying for that. But in our downtown core here, in the Humberston core, in the north end, that's where it's going to affect everybody. So we are working diligently, our staff at the region, and also our acting regional chairs are working diligently to convince the province that you can't just let these areas go, because, you know, as you mentioned last week, guys, a number of things are going to happen. People will take it home, which is fine because it's recyclable. They'll leave it on the side of the road, or they'll just throw it in their garbage, which we don't want it in the dump. We want it to be recycled. So we're going to keep going on that. I do have a whole package here that our staff put together, which was recently put out. It's called Frequently Asked Questions Blue Box Transition. This is hot off the press. I'll have staff get this out to you guys so that if you do receive questions from the public, you can actually answer it. There's a little myriad of things in here. But it's not a fait accompli. You know, we just hope that they come to their senses with regards to business districts, because the majority of business districts don't create tons of recyclables like industry does, or garbage like industry. So that's why they've left that out, which is out now. But we still want our downtown cores business area picked up. If there's an apartment building downtown or living units above commercial enterprises, they'll pick up theirs, but not the commercial enterprise. Does not make sense. So we're going to keep moving along with this. So yeah, it is baffling, Councillor. Councillor Bruno?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's one thing you mentioned in there, I thought I read the opposite, and that was for like apartment buildings where Niagara Recycling, or now the provider, comes in, picks up the totes, and with those the big hydraulic machines. I thought they were also being cut off. Is that not the case?
Well, I'm not sure the number of, I don't know if
So
staff
many units
knows.
and above.
So many units in a building and above, they pay for it themselves now. I'm just talking about where you've got residential units downtown where there's 2 or 3 units, they put it out front. Those will continue to be picked up, based on what we've been told, what's in this information, what we've been told of the region. Yeah, so, okay. Counselor Bodnar?
Just on that same line, and you're talking about downtown core. I know a particular grocery store in Ward 4 that's also caught up in it. So
It's true.
Yeah. So just when you're negotiating something, don't forget about Ward 4. Thanks.
Yeah. Downtown gas line. So, okay. Yeah.
Just have
Councilor
a
Rowe?
quick question, and you tell you about the region. I'm just wondering on the status on the Niagara Transit budget to see if there's going to be, if you could find out if they're going to be bringing a bus stop to the east side, or if Councilor Boyer could talk to that, if it's been discussed, so we can have a stop on. I know it was talked, Vance brought it up already, to see if that's progressing, now that I remember.
I don't have any new information on that, other than what the CAO and I, when we met with them, discussed. I know Vance has talked to both the chair and the manager of transit. Counselor, I don't know if you have, if you've heard anything new? Yeah. Because I think agency boards and commissions are at regional council. I'll tell you right now, just because this is where, if anything is going to come through.
There will be, through Mr. Mayor,
Yes, go ahead.
the budget will be going to the region soon, I know that. I just don't know if.
So this Thursday is agency boards and
Yeah.
commissions, yeah. And
So
the week
should-
after that's water sewer rates, so. Yeah, so this Thursday it'll come out. I mean, we'll certainly ask that question. That's really not a budget issue, because the bus is already here, the bus isn't gonna change. The route it'll be at the direction of the board and general manager and staff there. But we'll continue our conversations with them.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Okay. So, under the consent agenda, Councilor Bruno has lifted item 11.3B, which will be considered as item 12.3. Are there any other items to be lifted? Okay, if I could have Councilor Bruno and Elliott move that council hereby approves the listed consent items on the November 25th, 2025 council agenda, that the consent items be approved on the recommendations as contained therein. All in favor? That's carried. So, these are the items. There are 3 items tonight for consideration. The first one is the L.R. Wilson Heritage Research Archives Expansion, Report 2025-231. Stephanie, there she is. Stephanie, come on up.
Put my glasses on. Good evening, Mayor and Council. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Stephanie Powell-Baswick, the Director of Museum and Culture, and it's my pleasure to be here tonight to let you know that one of our dreams has come true, and that is to have our collection more accessible to the public and for research. So over the last couple of years, we've been, as a board level, looking for opportunities to bring all of our archives into one place. Now they're currently housed in several locations throughout our department. So we have some at Roselawn, we have some in the Heritage Resource Center, some in the archives, and some in the Williams Home. And we went over the last year and a half really looking for a partner to bring this forward to council. And I'm happy to say that I've been able to get a commitment from L.R. Wilson, Linton Red Wilson, who the building is named after, for an additional $1 million for the expansion. So the board has gone through a little bit of work regarding this. We did have an early concept drawing done, as well as working with our operations staff, some feasibility just to see that we were on the mark for what we're hoping for. I do have a little bit of an ambitious, maybe a little too ambitious timeline. 2026 is not only the 20th anniversary of the archives, but as well, it is when the biography is going to be released. That kind of started this whole process of speaking with Red Wilson about this expansion. So Dr. Dimitri Anastakis has been coming to Port Colborne to talk about the impact that the donation has made here in Port Colborne of Red Wilson for the L.R. Wilson Heritage Research Archives. And our archivist, Dr. Michelle Vosberg, and archives assistant Anna Carlson, as well as myself and the board, were really able to say what an impact it has made. Everything the Port Colborne Library and the Port Colborne Museum Board wrote originally on this Trillium grant to say, we are currently in a 5-by-5 foot research room. If we had a building, this is what it would be. Everything on that list came true. So it is a place for the community to meet. It is a place for research. We have online exhibits. There's programming, as well as the library using that space for their collection. We have all the microfilm from the newspapers there for research, as well as their, March break programs. So essentially, within saying that it's the perfect building, I just said, with the capacity, we're reaching capacity. We have so many volunteers. There's not a space for some volunteers. We're trying to put them on different days. And that started the conversation about, well, what would expansion look like? So I'm here today to ask council to support our wish for an additional $1 million to help us get this project started. We do anticipate as a board to do grant writing as well as fundraising. I've been working with my colleague, Alice Rotunda, who's our asset supervisor, to look at opportunities for a community benefit charge. If a bylaw is stated, this would be an eligible project for that. So in future, we'll be able to get funds. And I know already that council and the community really treasures the heritage and culture of this town. And I'm just here to ask you to really ask me any questions you may have, and then get the ball rolling. That's everything.
Thanks, Stephanie. And I'm going to put this on the floor. If I could have Councillors Danch and Hoyle move that the Museum and Culture Department Report 2025-231 be received, and that contingent upon the donor funding being received in advance of the commencement of the project, that a $1 million city matching contribution be approved and be funded by a 30-year debt, that the annual repayment amounts of the related debt be included in the 2027 capital budget. Questions to Stephanie on the project? Perfect. Stephanie, I do look forward to it. I did have some questions with staff today with regards to this. I know that Steve and his department will take it and get it out to tender. They'll get the perfect design. My one question is though, should we be looking at going up too, as opposed to just doing one floor, is getting in our design, getting a 2-story section, because, in another 20 years, you're going to be coming back, or your person takes over your job if you're not here anymore, you've retired or something, and that they're looking for more space. I think we need to kind of look at what we did, where we are, and really where we're going with this project to make sure that down the road we can set future councils and the citizens up for an expansion without taking all the green space away in the cultural and heritage district. So
absolutely, Mayor and Council. I can
Perfect.
comment on that. That was something we really did do a lot of studies with the existing archive staff. And I did bring one prop here I can share with
Sure.
The public. So, as you can see, I did send an electric. This is not included in the council package because it's not an approved design by the board, but the concept is approved. This would be the existing building, so it's more than doubling the space. For accessibility, we considered one floor a better design in terms of both programming and archive storage, as well as this is the early part of the design with the storage of all the artifacts in the back with no windows, climate controlled, as well as a few workstations and some washrooms. So our research facility would be all on the back, and we would still have our programming space. We thought that for our money that a longer one-level design would be, and that was from our archive staff recommendation.
Perfect. Good. Look forward to that.
I hope it's there for the next 50 years, Mayor.
Exactly, exactly. Well, some of those buildings are a lot older than that on that property. Anyways, any further questions? All in favor? Let's carry unanimously. Thank you, council. Thank you, Stephanie. Item 12.2 is recommendation report for official plan and zoning bylaw amendments for Mapleview subdivision, files D090224 and D14-03-24, 2025-234. Before I put it on the floor, Eric, do you want to give us some outline on this?
Thank you. Sorry for the delay. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. I'm joined tonight online by Dana Anderson from MHBC Consulting, who's been helping us with this file. I also have the benefit of following the presentation made by the applicant's agent, Mr. Butler. He provided an accurate overview of the application from 2024 through to tonight. So I'm going to be able to keep this presentation fairly brief and save time for questions at the end. Report 2025-234 on tonight's agenda presents staff recommendation for the partial approval of the Mapleview subdivision. This report is recommending approval of an official plan amendment, which is attached as Appendix A to this report. It's also recommending approval of zoning bylaw amendment, which is attached as Appendix B to the report. There's no decision or recommendation being brought forward at this time for the draft plan of subdivision. The applicant's finalizing some engineering details with an expectation to return in early 2026 with a plan that staff can bring forward for your consideration. Further to this, the zoning bylaw amendment tonight contains holding provisions on the residential zones. These holding provisions mean that the zoning will not be in full effect until additional criteria related to site servicing have been satisfied. As noted on this slide, the application for an official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment, and draft plan of subdivision were received in April of 2024, and we held a public meeting approximately 3 months later, predating me. Following that June 2024 meeting, the applicant addressed several of the outstanding comments, technical issues through resubmission of various reports. An updated draft plan and a conceptual development plan was brought forward in April of 2025, with further revisions brought forward in October of 2025. All of these submissions are available on the city's website. I won't go through all the changes made as Mr. Butler has covered those, but I would like to use the next 2 slides to clarify one aspect pertinent to tonight's recommendation. Shown on this slide is the October 2025 site sketch, which was resubmission. This is also shown in report 2025-234. I'd like to note the area on the right side of the screen with the yellow townhouses that are shown. As Mr. Butler mentioned in the presentation, this was included in the resubmission, but is not included in tonight's decision related to either the official plan amendment or the zoning bylaw amendment. This area was proposed by the applicant in the submission. However, the applicant does not own these lands. Shown on this slide is the schedule that accompanies Appendix B to tonight's report, the zoning bylaw amendment. The area shown in yellow on the previous map is not included in this schedule. The decision tonight related to the official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment, does not include any decision for those lands. And lastly, staff and the applicant have worked to revise the official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment that's being presented tonight. Additional work is underway to address servicing related to the draft plan of subdivision. It's anticipated that a draft plan of subdivision will be presented to council in early of 2026. If any members of council or members of the public have questions that don't get asked tonight or don't get answered tonight, I encourage you to contact me via contact information shown on this slide. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, you may as well sit back down. I'm going to put the report on the floor so we can take questions and comments. So if I could have Councilors Bodner and Ackley move that the Development and Government Relations Department Planning Division Report 2025-234 be received, and that bylaw 7408/99/25 to adopt the official plan amendment attached as Appendix A of Planning Division Report 2025-234 be approved, and that bylaw 7409/100/25 for zoning bylaw amendment attached as Appendix B of Planning Division Report 2025-234 be approved, and that the city clerk be directed to issue the notices of decision regarding the bylaws in accordance with the Planning Act. Questions? Councillor Beauregard.
Yeah, through your worship to the chief planner. You mentioned those townhomes were not included in the applications that are before us. Does that mean in the future, if the owner is to own those lands, new applications will have to be submitted?
Eric?
Through the mayor to the councillor, yes, that's correct.
Councillor Elliott?
Thank you, Mayor. To Eric, on revised official plan amendment 3, it says, notwithstanding section 3.2.1 D2, the new residential development shall provide 85 square meters of neighborhood commercial uses for every 100 housing units of residential development. So I'm assuming that's, you're talking about 1,800 units, so that's 180 times 85. I can't do the math in my head right now. Will all of those commercial space be on ground floors of the apartment buildings? And I know that probably comes into draft plan, but when I saw that, I just wanted to know if that's going to be contained in buildings or will it be freestanding?
Eric?
Through the mayor to the councillor, it will be a mix. It could be contained in apartment buildings, and then it may be able to be accommodated in some of the blocks that are fronting on the major streets.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Councillor Bruno?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the chief planner. Eric, with respect to, this came up at the ward meeting, with respect to this development, we're looking at OP and zoning tonight, but residents were encouraged by a transportation study coming forward and an urban design study coming forward. Does that study have to be completed to be part of what might then be a draft plan submission? In other words, do we have to have those policies in place when we get to some of these later approvals? And if so, how do we make that happen?
Eric?
Through the mayor to the councillor, we don't need necessarily to have those plans in place or finalized. I do know that in some of the work we've done leading up to terms of reference for the transportation study, we've been communicating with our colleagues in transportation where the major growth areas in the city will be. So those are being included in consideration for development. Transportation within this subdivision, because we're not quite there yet in terms of the draft approval, but a transportation impact study was done pertaining to traffic flows from this development. How that relates to the rest of the city can be accommodated through a larger citywide transportation master plan, but they aren't necessarily, one doesn't wait on the other one or require the other one's completion to move ahead.
Counselor?
Yes, turning back to the area in yellow, that's the parcel of land that the city owns?
Through the mayor to councilor, yes, that is correct.
So I know that probably those negotiations haven't finished in that, but in terms of how much, or if there's one owner or two owners, if that land, and it's public, many of the residents that back onto that would like to buy all or part of that, depending on how those negotiations plan out. If they were to become extensions of rear yards, whether it's partial or full, does that need a rezoning?
Through the mayor to the councilor, no. If as I understand the intention from the neighbors interested in that and exploring that option to buy, it's just to add passive space to their rear yards. I don't believe we'd be requiring a rezoning on it, as no development would be proposed for it.
Thank you. One last one. Eric, you heard me talk about Clowley Street West and 3rd Avenue and the alignment of the roads coming out of Westport Gardens and the new development. And when I listened to the proponent's consultant, it talked about a controlled intersection and a light there, notwithstanding anything that could be done by the city or going down the road. So I guess the first question is, from an agency comment, is the region's comment untouchable? Is it sacrosanct? Is it not able to be changed?
Through the mayor to the councilor, I would suggest that yes. I mean, there was some pushback given. There was some ideas floated prior to my involvement in this file with other alignments. But the direction provided from the region was that there would be one access, one public street access granted along Colborne, and that it needed to align with 3rd Avenue.
Counselor?
Lastly, it was also mentioned that it would be signalized by the consultant. But that obviously, I would think, would have a few practicalities around it. One is, would it be fair to say when the traffic warrants it, or does that come at the beginning of this development? And I'll just might as well ask number two, is that then put into a development agreement?
Through the mayor to the councilor, yes, it would be a condition of draft plan of subdivision. So it would be intersection improvements are typically covered at that time. I have to go back to the TIS. My understanding was that the signalized intersection was at West Side Road in Colborne, and that this may be a four-way stop, but I have to confirm that.
Okay, fine, thank you.
Great. Further questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Item 12.3, Comprehensive CIP, East Waterfront CIPA Tax Increment Grant, 80 Nickel Street, Report 2025-64. If I could have Councilors Hoyle and Beauregard move that the Development and Government Relations Report 2025-64 be received, that the bylaw attached as Appendix B, being a bylaw to enter into the Comprehensive Community Improvement Plan, East Waterfront Community Improvement Project Area Agreement with Virgil Group, attached as Schedule A to the bylaw, be approved, that the agreement between the City of Port Colborne and the Virgil Group for tax increment-based grant, referred to as a TIG, in the East Waterfront Community Improvement Project Area under the Comprehensive Community Improvement Plan, CIP, be approved. Questions? Counselor Bruno.
Thank you, Worship. In general, I certainly am in support of this application and can't wait to see it get started. That's the subject of my concern. They can't wait to see it get started. And so when you read through the tax increment grant agreement, it speaks to the issue of when these projects can start. And so we've all been around to see announcements, and we've all been around to see building permits go on and things not built. So in section 6.7, I'll read you the half a paragraph. This is to, I'm assuming, to Bram or Gary. Yeah. The applicant agrees that it shall commence construction of the development as described in the associated tax increment grant TIG program application, building permit issued in brackets, within 4 years, and complete construction of the development within 7 years of the execution of this agreement, failing which, unless extended by the city, this grant shall be at the end. So it's my understanding, I've had some conversations with Brant as Bram as late as today, and it appears that the region has a 2-year waiting list. It would seem appropriate for us, wherever we can, to align with the region, and it would also seem appropriate that we want to get things happening. And so my concern is I would like to see this agreement amended, if possible, to coincide with the region. In this case, I think they're a step ahead of us, because I think if you're going to apply for that, you should be at the stage where you're ready to build. Potentially, you're at the stage where you're going to your lender and you're showing this. And I think, and from our point of view, I don't like to see it on the books for years. And I don't want to get into a protracted issue at the 3 years and 6 months and why it's taking so long, and I want an extension. I'd like to see some finality to this. So through you to Bram, can this agreement be amended? And would you share the concern about that we should line up with the region in terms of a shorter building permit application period?
Con.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Council and to Councilor Bruno. I can certainly go back and double check that it is 2 years with the region. That was off the top of my head when we were talking. There is some timelines that they have built in. My feeling was that, or my understanding is that ours has always aligned with them, but I do remember there is a sunset clause. There definitely is a sunset clause in the regions. I can go back and double check. If it is misaligned, we can certainly work to align it. I do share your concerns with things being on the books for too long. This was written at a time a little bit earlier when things were moving a little bit quicker, but we do want to provide some leeway because there is delays that do happen. Sometimes it's on our side, sometimes it's on their side with moving things forward. So this is sort of a middle ground. Of course, we'd love to see things get done sooner, and if there's a way that we can tighten it up, that's appropriate. We can speak to our consultant to get his opinion on it and come back. I do feel with this agreement, this particular one, the applicants have seen it. We have talked about it, so I would like to move this one forward as is, but that would be up to council. If you'd like it to be revised, we can certainly look into that.
Thank you. Is it fair to say that the applicant is wanting to get started?
Yes, this applicant very much would like to get started and are looking to pull their permits by the end of 2026.
Thank you. I don't doubt the applicant's intention, and I don't doubt some of the applicant's intentions along the way through the years on this and on developments. We've seen people run into financial difficulties. We've seen things stop in the middle of. We've seen things put up for sale, and I know there's provisions covering that. I would like to see this amended, and I'm hoping council would, so that we don't get in a situation where, I mean, you know, a lot of the general public doesn't understand TIG and thinks it's, you know, a freebie or it's a grant back. It really pushes things forward. It's an incentive to build. And so I think that people who apply for incentives should be saying they're wanting to build. I think the two go hand in hand. And because this hasn't been signed and we have a developer that wants to start right away, I see amending this to like half of those parameters, 2 years and the extension to 4 years to build. After all, I mean, I don't want to see a development that doesn't get built sitting there with a TIG on it and people wondering why we're providing this without, it's an incentive. So why aren't you building? I think by amending this, we remove that. And I think that serves the public well. I think it serves Treasury well. I think it says the developer's serious. And so I'm not sure, Mr. Mayor, I'll need your help or the clerk, if this needs amending tonight, if it's something that first should go back, talk to our professionals and the applicant.
Before I do that, because it is an amendment, so you'll have to get a seconder for that and put it on the floor, but we may not be able to do that. Because how does our policy read? So for our tax increment grant policy, are those open dates on there, or are those set in stone as far as the 4 and the 7?
Mr. Mayor, that's the contracted agreement that we have with the developers. I'd have to go back and check our actual policy, but I believe that our policy would have been included as part of the contract.
No, but what I'm saying is if our policy states 4 and 7, we have to change the policy before we change a contract. So if that's how it goes, we may have to just refer it back to staff, and then we maybe, if they can get it brought back, you may have to change the policy as soon as December meeting, because all you're changing in the policy is those numbers. Because I don't think we can actually change it on here without it, because it has to align with our policy, would it not, CIO?
Through yourself, Mayor, to council, so I quickly read the policy, and I don't see the timeline in the policy. What we have in the policy is if you initiate the grant, you sign it, you start it, it's 5 to 10 years. We have those outlined in the policy for how long the grant period would be. We have the calculation of the grant in the policy, but the ability to say what your start and end date is, and I could be wrong. I just, I took 5 minutes here to quickly do the search through it, but I don't see that there is a 4 to 7. One question I would ask maybe Bram here, have we adjusted this date for any other CIP that we've done today?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Brian, no, we have not.
So that would just be something for council to consider, that we haven't adjusted it, and maybe there is some direction that council wants to give us to review this date range. I think as has been noted, the date ranges provide flexibility, and I appreciate the councilor's comments that sometimes flexibility is needed because of financial reasons. We went through COVID, that impacted some people, and things took longer to build. So sometimes the extended time period is appropriate, and sometimes having the shorter period gets you to where you want to be. Council has approved the development. I stand to be corrected from our chief planner and from our economic development officer. So council has approved the development. That's ready to go. It's just the time frame to which this opportunity for this grant would be available. I think that's what you're looking at today. So staff's happy to take any direction. My one question just to our economic development officer is if we take direction, and this is referred back to staff, and we come back at the next council meeting, is there do you have any concern with that? Because I would have concern, I have some concern just for council to say that we're going to change our time frame when we haven't changed it on any of our other CIPs. It would be nice to have an opportunity to confer on that, but I don't want to delay something that our economic development officer is going to tell me can't be delayed for the 2 weeks till the next council meeting.
Mr. Khan.
As I stated before, my preference would be to make this amendment going forward on contracts and not to hold this one up. But if it's the direction of council to come back with the clerk's blessing, we could have an amended report brought forward for December 9th.
Councilor Bruno?
I think one of the difficulties we've run into, this isn't the first time and it isn't about this project, is with all the myriad of bylaws and policies that we have, you never know what's going on until you see something put in front of you and you realize that it's either an outdated policy, and from my view, that and other things, and I'm sure staff even agrees with this if they had the time to, they want to review all these policies, but out there, there's probably hundreds of them. But at the end of the day, I don't think that that's a reason in something that's taken all this time to not revisit in 2 weeks. I mean, there's no time like the present. This is a very advantageous program for developers. I don't want to be that, you know, we're not out there to try and push things around and push things on people. But I think when you've gone this far and you've had some experiences in things that don't get built, notwithstanding it's not tax increment grant that's been a problem, that you deal with them. Could I live with, we start with the next person? I just don't want to leave a lingering program out there. From what we're hearing is that the developer wants to get going. So I asked that question first because I don't think this is a heavy change, whether, as the mayor talked to and Mr. Bowles, if we're changing only the numbers in an existing policy, we don't have any problem with the rest of the policy, at least I've not heard it ever, then I think it's prudent to do so. And I think we do that for the benefit of the next developer while not hindering this developer because he is ready to go. And unless someone can explain why this needs to be a protracted thing, I think, you know, I'm not so sure that I can resolve in my head that because we haven't done it for anybody else, we shouldn't do it this time. And I realize this is in play as opposed to starting a new policy. But if we were to review this, I honestly think that's the only change we'd make. And so why go through a whole review to do that? I'd like to take up Brand's offer of if council wants to bring it back first meeting in December and see if we can amend these two. It's a simple change. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Just making sure I'm hearing you correctly. So you'd rather see this referred back to staff, look at the policy, talk to the proponent, and then bring this back in December?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. You're comfortable with that then?
Yeah, I believe we can. Sorry, yes, I believe.
So
we
about
can
3
get
weeks away? I think it's 3 weeks.
I think the deadline for reports.
It's 2 weeks away. So
the deadline for reports, I believe, was yesterday.
Sorry, we'll get it in. Right, Madam Clerk? So Madam Clerk's guaranteed that this will get in. We can talk to the proponent tomorrow. At least you can, I mean, all you have to do is change those numbers. It's not like you got to rewrite the whole report. So, but at the same time, I think there's going to be direction that staff looks at our policy and how we've got it written, so that if those are etched in stone in that policy, then that can come. That doesn't have to come, or that can come the same night. You can actually change it. So, CAO.
Just through the mayor to council, just on an expectation. So I think, and for council to know what my biggest question is, it's really where the regional dates are. because if we have a date that's less than the region's date, I just don't want to run amok with the fact that the region's been debating these CIPs in great length, if they want to have them or not. And I wouldn't want to put a developer at a disadvantage from having access to a benefit. So I think that's the biggest question that I'd like our economic development officer to be able to answer, is what the regional dates are.
You can bring that back to that same meeting in 2 weeks?
I can, yes.
Okay. So we're not going to take an amendment because we're going to hopefully refer this back to staff and come back. I've got a mover and a seconder. You're the only counselor that's spoken, so if somebody else wants to refer it. Oh, okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My point is to what the CAO said, and I'm not in agreement or disagreement with Councillor Bruno, but my understanding is that the CIPs for the region and the municipalities work in conjunction together. I could be wrong with that. So my concern was exactly what the CAO was saying, is like, do we need approval from the region, like, so that our plans are coinciding with each other? Or can they be completely separate entities on their own?
Yeah, because they would be doing the same contract with the region based on their policy and procedures with the tax increment grant. It could be different. There are intricacies within all municipalities that are a little bit different than the region. They're not all exactly the same. So, yeah, I'll let the
Through you, Mr. Mayor, sorry, to council. So the mayor is correct. There is policies that are different. They do not have to be identically lined up. The preference is for them to be lined up with all dates and things. The programs can still work together if the dates are off, but I agree with the CAO that we definitely would like them to ensure that they are aligned. But they can operate separately.
In essence, if this proponent's taking a regional TIG and our TIG, the region says 2 years, we're giving 4, they're going with 2 because they want the region's TIG at the same time. So they're not going to delay till 4 and lose one TIG and not just to try to retain another. I wouldn't see that. So anyways.
Through you, Mr. I'd also just add, if in April or May, when the region, they're doing away with the residential TIG at the end of that time, which I don't necessarily agree with, and we're going to be obviously advocating for them not to, but if it does go away, our TIG would still work. Like our TIG is still in play for all developers in the city or within the geographic regions that the TIG works.
And just so everybody understands, I mean, people think of this as a bonus to a developer. That property gives us today, just the city of Port Colborne, $1,159 in tax today. If this agreement goes through and they build the building and everything moves forward like it's supposed to, once the taxes are paid and the percentage is rebated to the proponent, the taxes coming to the city of Port Colborne will increase from $1,159 to $13,465. So right away you're gaining money, and then after the 10-year TIG, in this case it's 10 years, then they pay the full amount, which is almost $70,000. So, and you've got a nice brand new building on a vacant lot. It's helping revitalize the neighborhood. I mean, the advantage, you got water, now they pay water usage fees, those aren't tigged out. So, I mean, it's a win-win situation for everybody here. Anyways, council, if anybody wants to refer this back, councilor can't do it himself because he's already spoken on it. Put your hand up. If not, then we could move on with the question. Okay. Any further questions?
No.
Yep.
Oh, you're going to ask for it.
Don, I'm saying he can't do it because he's spoken on this. However, if somebody else wants to refer, it's somebody that has to. So if you have a question on this, I'll take it. Or if you want to make a different motion, you can put that forward. Okay, I'm going to move her. Do I have a seconder? Counselor Danch. This is to refer it back to staff. So in essence, Bram's going to come back at our next meeting with a changed agreement, revising our TIG program to align with the region. I think that's what we want. And then confirm what those dates are or years are with the region. If it's not already aligned, yes. Anything else to go into that? Council? CAO, anything else? Bram, anything else you want to go in that? Okay, everybody understands this? Okay? No debate, unless time and what's involved. So we know it's coming back next meeting. We know it's going to be in there. We know the other information coming forward. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thanks, Bram. Okay, on to staff remarks. Madam Clerk, anything this evening? No? You're all right? Okay. Fire Chief Stan Double, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nothing from fire.
Mr. Shapowski.
Yes, through your worship, the Lakeshore Road West Bridge project is planned to have asphalt installed this week as long as the weather cooperates, which will then allow us to open the bridge on time. Should there be any weather-related delays, we will notify the public if that does happen. And just to shadow the mayor's opening remarks, we're looking forward to discussing our water, wastewater, and storm sewer master plans at the open house on December 3rd from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Valley Health and Wellness Center. Thank you.
Steve, while you're speaking, just an update on Schofield, Hampton, Sugarloaf, the water line relining. I noticed they're starting to disconnect from the houses. Can you just give us an update on that?
Yes, so they are starting to disconnect. So the actual shafts that they had dug are backfilled now. I noticed when I was driving by earlier. Temporary services are still on the ground, but now is the time when they start disconnecting from the temporary, putting back onto the water main that's underground, and then those will start coming away. So it should be approximately about 2 weeks at most to be able to get those temporary lines out of that area.
Great, thanks, Steve. Mr. Long?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Just a quick update. You may have noticed that 725 King Street, which is a city-owned building, has been demolished. I think Council will recall that this property is part of a development parcel that is owned by the city as well as Niagara Region, or that this parcel will be part of a larger development parcel that will be used for an affordable housing project in partnership between Niagara Regional Housing and the city. So really pleased to see that building come down. In terms of what's next, a project manager has been retained by Niagara Region who will oversee site works and remediation for all three parcels. The three parcels being 725 King, the city's Haney Street Road allowance, and then Niagara Regional's housing complex at, I think, 709 King Street. So that project manager will oversee as a site works remediation and cleanup, and then we're continuing to work with Niagara Regional Housing on advocacy at the federal and provincial levels to secure construction financing for the project. As Council knows, part of the Housing Accelerator Fund dollars that the city received, some of that will be used for some of the pre-development work at this site. So stay tuned. Oh, and I should say that the memorandum of understanding that was approved by Council back in the fall of 2022 is being revised just to kind of bring project elements and project financing and details up to date. That'll come to Council sometime in Q1 of 2026. Thank you.
Mr. Ash?
No planning updates, but just to add to something from the mayor's message on behalf of the customer service representatives. It only took about a half hour today after the announcement at the daycare center for the phone calls to start coming in at switchboard asking for how do we get our names on the waiting list for this daycare. So I think there's a lot of excitement about that out in the community. Just thought I'd share that.
Thanks, Eric. Madam Museum Curator, do you have anything to add tonight? Anything new going on other than the expansion that we approved tonight? Or the funding?
Sure, I will steal Councillor Akalinka's thunder. Just wanted to let you know, we had great presence from council at the Roselawn Christmas Market, and they're seeing also the Community Curator Project. Community Curator Project was funded by the federal government under the New Horizons Seniors Program. So we got a 14,000 and change to hire Stephanie McDougall, who is our outreach coordinator. She went and worked with the community, found 50 people in honor of our 50th anniversary of the museum this year, and brought them through the archives where everybody picked the object that they liked the best. We then created both an exhibit and an exhibit catalog featuring both the person, the object, and the story that that object tells. And we went through 50 exhibit guides this weekend. We are now in our second printing, and we got an extension on the exhibit. So instead of ending the end of December, it'll be going till March the 30th now. And that was through funds provided by the Port Colborne Museum Auxiliary. So we're going to be able to welcome more guests. There'll be 2 parts to that extension, which will involve both of our local high schools and the Port Colborne Library, but you'll have to stay tuned to hear more about that. Thank you.
Thanks, Steph. CAO?
Thank you, Mayor. A couple things. I think one, we should take our Director of Museum and Culture. We might want to put her in charge of the capital budget moving forward. Her ability to present succinctly and get approval is always impressive. A couple things. I was actually with the Director of Public Works last week at the Parks and Rec Ontario conference shortly, and we had the opportunity to present on the YMCA, our relationship there. And one of the things we took away from that time that we spent there was just the integration with school boards. We have a good relationship, but just some great ideas on how we can continue to build that to open up facilities. And we're looking forward to having those conversations. Council will notice. I hope that the community will notice as they come in, but we've changed up the first floor. It does look a lot different. We have planning, we have building. We already saw our chief planner, already knows who's calling on the phone now, right off of the bat. So we brought clerks, customer service, everybody's on the first floor. It's the groups that when people come into City Hall, they want to see most. So we've tried to make people as accessible as possible. A couple other things, just maybe some homework for council. And do not normally ask for homework, and our CBO is not going to be too appreciative, but he'll appreciate this. He started to make a list. We know throughout the course of the year there's certain property standard issues that do come up. He started to make a list so he can compile, put together a summary, and get back to council to where certain properties are. So if you do have a property that you'd like on the list, I saw Councillor Frank Dant sent one on the weekend. He was looking. He had a property that became of an issue. So please do send it. He's going to try to do a summary list with some updates, and if need be, we'll have a special meeting going forward just to go over that. The other item is just short-term rental applications are coming in quite almost like overload. There's quite a few, so we're putting together a bit of a rapid response team to be able to go through some of those. We have had a couple complaints come in. I'm not going to say we've dealt with everyone perfectly because we didn't always have somebody on available at that exact time. So we're going to work through that. I guess you'd call growing pain to get that working, and some lessons learned in the early days, and we're going to keep going. But we appreciate the support as we bring that program online.
Great, thanks, CAO. On to councillors' remarks. Oh, sorry, Chief.
I apologize, Mr. Mayor, through you. I just wanted to advise yourself and council we're watching a weather pattern that's starting tomorrow afternoon, high winds with the potential of power outages in this specific area. So just keep that in mind if you have any constituents that may have questions for you.
Okay, thank you. Councillors' remarks. Councillor Bodner.
None this evening.
Councillor Hoyle.
I just have one. I'm assuming that the Ferris Street complaints for truck traffic, it has to do with our Welland Street project. I have dump trucks going down at all hours of the day and early morning, and I imagine that's what it is.
Steve?
Yes, through your worship. So there are some truck routes that are actually being detoured, so whether they're taking Ferris or Davis in some circumstances to avoid the construction that's ongoing on Welland Street, it could be a possibility. For the long term, they would end up diverting back to Welland Avenue and then to Nickel in the future.
Do we have a timeline, how that project is progressing? I know they were just doing curbs yesterday.
Through your worship, I'm thinking it's going to be near like mid to late December until everything's done. We're talking about putting trees in too at this point. So there's sod and different restorations that are going to happen. So it's still going to be a little bit of time until the asphalt's down. Road will be reopened, but then there will still be some sod work that takes place after the fact too. So it will be a little bit longer.
Okay, thanks, Councilor. Councilor Danch?
I just want to echo, through you, just want to echo to Brian there about my complaint on the new tenant on Neff Street there. Like, that was last Tuesday they moved in. Thursday I had sent a request in. Bylaw got back to me on Monday, and Buddy's still there, and the garbage is growing. Just wonder if we got an idea on what might be happening with that new tenant.
Yeah, through the mayor to the councillor, I did talk to our CBO who oversees bylaw, and he's going to be reaching out to you directly tomorrow on that. He didn't have an immediate response, but he knows he needs a response.
And I'll be there waiting for him with the bells on.
I think he knows where to find you. Anything further, Councillor? Okay, Councillor Elliott?
Thank you, Mayor. My one item has already been recycled. I do have a property that could go under property standards, but I'm not quite sure if it qualifies, but...
Let Mr. Rogers know the address. And
yeah, he doesn't know if it qualifies either. Maybe down somewhere down the end of Clarence Street in that vicinity. Okay. So I'm assuming that the property standards should hold to that property as well, and maybe we could take a look at that. So just those two things. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bruno.
Thank you, Worship. Just an update at Ward 3 open house ward meeting last Thursday. It was the highest attendance I've ever seen at anybody's ward meeting, but I'm not too sure. Ward 4 gets pretty packed out there on some of them. So we had about 50 or to 60 people there. 2 were in the back left corner there. Lots of interest, certainly some praise for the staff here on a lot of items. As originally stated, the group was sort of north of Kalali and south of Kalali, and certainly Mapleview was a part of that. So I kind of had gotten some updates from Eric day before as to where various developments are in the city, and in particularly in Ward 3, or what's about to be Ward 1, and went through that. Group was very complimentary about the city entering an urban design study and a traffic master plan. Lots of talk about the OP and their potential involvement and how they could get involved. So I expect that to be happening, and kind of gave them everyone an update, not just on these developments, but on things else otherwise going on in the city. The east side employment lands along 140 and the potential there, the water district and wastewater district, and that met with great interest and praise that we were able to do that and get that servicing done. Talked about the child care status, but when it kind of opened it up, people are many times unaware of things going on, and particularly on the development issues. So residents have become involved when there's a public meeting. They become involved if they've stuck with it, but they really don't know what's going on in that passage of time, the months and months, and then the passage of time after the approval. So I was able to bring that to their attention on the developments that they'd asked for. But one, I thought, interesting idea, and I'm sure you've had this amongst yourselves too, is if there was a place on our city website where the status of these developments and kind of a living document where they're at. And I know myself, I've asked counselors or people approaching the grocery store, what's happening with that development? And so I have to call Eric or someone there, hope they're there, communicate back and forth, tell the citizen, here's what's happening, nothing's happened, or it's scheduled for March. If that could somehow be out there, it would save a tremendous amount of back and forth, and citizens who are concerned about that development could just go to the website and they'd see the latest status. So Eric's done it for us. His predecessor did it with reports to council, but it certainly hasn't been available to the residents. And so I'm wondering, we're doing it anyways, if we could put it on the website and people could refer to it. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Do you want a response to that last one, Mr. Atch?
Through the mayor to the councillor. I don't see our communication colleagues here tonight, but it's my understanding that we're in the process of developing a new public-facing website. I would propose that perhaps as part of that sort of redevelopment of the planning and development page that we integrate perhaps a project timeline into our current applications file, and maybe we request that gets built by the web developer in the new year. I think, from my understanding, we're just a few months out from having that in place.
That would be great. And while you were talking about that public facing, I mean, even the question Councillor Hoyle asked tonight, something like that on Capital Works and where we're at could just be a live document and keep getting updated. But thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Great, thank you. Councillor Beauregard? Councillor Aquilina?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a few items. I just want to thank staff for responding to emails that I've had over the last couple of weeks. I keep anticipating there might be a slowdown at some point in requests, and I think I should just give up on that at this point. Good news, and Mayor, you can step in at any time to speak about it too, but something I brought up with Regional Councillor Fred Davies early on in my term here, was the Miller Road stop sign onto Highway 3. There was a lot of back and forth. I think Regional Councillor Butters may have started it before I came onto council. Ups and downs for this entire time, but we finally got a resolution last week, I think it was, where the region spoke to the MTO and are going to be enhancing that stop sign. So I'm really appreciative of that. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. You're correct. It's been going on for the past 2 terms. Both Councillor Butters and I worked on this. Councillor Davies and I, Councillor Batway and I, yourself, Councillor Bodner. But we really have to give a good shout out to our transportation staff at the region. They were a dog with a bone with us, and kept hounding. Everybody understands what it is, and we just couldn't understand why it's not a huge ask that we were asking for. So, but the ministry has come forward and acquiesced to our concerns with that intersection. So, but yeah, staff, and we'll make sure we send them a note. I'll talk to Alexis tomorrow. We'll get a note down to them. Just thank him on behalf of all of council. But I knew you'd want to bring that up this evening.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, and to my point, it is like to the regional staff, we're just, keep
pushing, yeah.
Yes.
Plus, it might have been my comments to the Ministry of Transportation too that well, if you don't do it, we're gonna do it anyways. So maybe agree with what the region's asking for here. And
Yes.
because you just might find what we want is gonna show up one day.
Yeah.
Thanks, Counselor.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the next is to talk about the Christmas market, which happened this past Saturday. So Councillor Bodnar, Councillor Hoyle, Councillor Bagu, and I were all in attendance. I volunteered, just it's my committee. Some people had, got to sit on Santa's lap and make some Christmas wishes. But it was we had a lot of vendors. Always happy to have Stephanie steal my thunder because she does such a great job. But it was my first opportunity to actually visit the curators exhibit. And I found it very fascinating. I picked up one of the catalogs that were being handed out, and just to read the background of why the 50 curators picked their choices. I felt like it was, very well prepared. Stephanie McDougall did a really good job of capturing everybody's comments. And so anyways, why I had asked Stephanie to stay was because I knew that people had asked for there to be an extension, and so I wanted her to be able to announce it. So anyways, those are all my updates for this week.
Thank you, Counselor. Okay. Are there any notices of motions this evening? Okay. Bylaws, if I could ask Councillor Elliott and Bruno to move that the following bylaws be passed and enacted as presented. Bylaw 74089925, Bylaw 7409100025, and Bylaw number 7410100125. Questions on the bylaws? All in favor? That's carried. And at this time, we are moving into closed session this evening. So for those that are watching us online, we won't be coming back online after coming out of closed session. So I could have Councillors Danch and Hoyle move that Council do now proceed to meet in closed session at 8:17 p.m. under the Municipal Act 2001, subsection 2392C, where a closed session meeting is held if the subject matter being considered as a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. Questions? All in favor? That's carried. So for those that are here, we thank you. And those that are watching online, we thank you for watching. And we'll be back on December the 9th.